I broke one of my husband's rules and he kicked me out of our house. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Okay, husband and I have been married for 7 months. A little backstory. Looking back now, I know this was an arranged marriage. My parents were basically desperate for me to get married. I have lived in my parents' house for the past 32 years. Some of you might think that's way too long, but I just love living with them. I hang out with them. I cook with them. They're my besties. But at some point, my dad thought I needed to get married so that I could have kids because my eggs were drying up. They ended up setting me up with one of their best friend's son. To say we hit it off is an understatement. It was almost like love at first sight. But the problem was, he is extremely controlling. We got engaged 6 months later, and that's when he gave me a set of rules to follow. No eyeliner or bright makeup, no spaghetti straps, nothing backless, no short skirts, no short shorts. Basically, I can't show my legs. I can only wear my hair in either braids or a tight bun, because if too many men stare at my long locks, they will find me too desirable. Truthfully, I thought it was a joke, but he was dead serious. Because I was in love, I said yes. And after our marriage, oh God, it got worse. Part 2 is up. My husband kicked me out of our house after I broke one of his rules. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. After the wedding, he started controlling not only what I wore, my makeup and my hairstyles, he started to control what I ate. Suddenly, I couldn't have dairy, and I'm a total cheese addict. And get this, I couldn't eat anything processed. Oh, and don't even think about fast food. And he would never let me go to the supermarket by myself. Every single time we went grocery shopping, we would get into huge fights. Then came all the hygiene rules. He did not want me to wear deodorant, and he did not want me to bathe every day. After 2 months of being married, I was ready to file for divorce. And thank God my parents had my back. Okay, something I forgot to mention in part 1, my husband started his own church. Do you see where this is going? I was so angry and resentful, I decided to break a couple of rules. I showered, I straightened my hair, I put on a full face of makeup, I Ubered pizza, McDonald's, and Mexican food. And when he came home, he saw me eating everything. Not only did he yell and get angry, he grabbed my purse, threw it out the house, and told me to leave. Yeah, part 3 is up. I found out my husband had a cult where he was married to 2 other women. Nothing could prepare me for what I was about to find out. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I got to my parents' house and they started apologizing because they are the ones that had set me up with him. And this is when they told me everything. They found out from my husband's parents that his church functioned like a cult and that he was married to 2 other women. Oh yeah, and remember all the rules I had to follow? All of his church members also had to follow the rules. He would also make everyone confess their sins in a circle in front of everybody else. Now you're probably wondering why I didn't know this, but one of my husband's rules for me was that I couldn't go to his church. I confronted him that very same day and he denied everything. He said my parents and his were lying to us and that they didn't want us to be together. I filed for a divorce, but he refuses to sign the papers. He's still denying everything. Oh, and if you thought he apologized, no, he didn't. What do I do? Story time about how my husband moved his mistress into our house. Disclaimer, it's not my story time. I was sending it on Instagram. My husband and I got married when we were really young. I was 16 and he was 18. We had our first baby that same year. Then we had 2 more before I even turned 20. Dedicated my 20s to raising our children. My husband dedicated himself to working. The time I turned 30 years old, we owned 2 businesses. And we were able to put our children into the best school we could. You ask me, we had a really good life. There were moments where we fought, but we never went to bed angry. I turned 32. I wanted to open my own business. I wanted to own my own salon. But of course, owning a business, you have to be there. My husband suggested that we get a nanny. Do you see where this is going? We went through 5 nannies before we landed on the one we loved. But this is the thing. My husband kept making up excuses as to why he didn't like the nannies. He said they were lazy, or that the kids didn't like them, or that their cooking wasn't good enough for the kids. Then he told me he found somebody through one of our employees. This girl was 17 years old. Go to part 2, it's up. Story time about how my husband moved his mistress into our house. Come on, so now my story time is on Instagram. He insisted we needed this one nanny. She was 17. She came recommended by one of our employees. I said yes. When this girl came to our house, she looked completely innocent, like a regular 17-year-old girl. She had just graduated high school, seemed really responsible, and really loved the kids. And the kids liked her because she was young and she played with them. After 3 weeks, everything was settled. She was the nanny. We even decided to keep her as a live-in nanny. This made my life so much easier. I was opening my own salon, and my work days were 12+ hours. This girl was so reliable. She wouldn't just make dinner for the kids. She would make dinner for me and my husband. She wouldn't just wash their clothes. She would wash our clothes. And my husband paid her really, really well for this. But this is when I noticed my husband's mood started changing. For the better. He was always in a good mood, and he started working out like crazy. He was eating super healthy, trying to spend more time with the family. That included the nanny. That's when I had that nervous feeling in my stomach, kind that gives you the runs. That's when I knew that something was happening. Part 3 is up. Story time about how my husband moved his mistress into our house. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Send me on Instagram. My husband was happy all the time after this nanny moved in. That's when I knew something was happening. I started noticing that after I would go to bed, my husband would suddenly get really thirsty and have to go downstairs. Nanny nanny's bedroom was downstairs. Usually I'd go back to sleep. I would wake up a couple of hours later and he was still not in bed. When I went downstairs, he was coming out of the nanny's bedroom. That's when he said that the nanny was feeling sick, that he was just helping her. This kept happening all the time. Till one night, I wake up to find them kissing on the couch, as if the kids and I are not sleeping upstairs. This is when the 17-year-old nanny starts to cry and confesses they met when she was 15 and that they had been together for 2 years. Yes, I just found out my husband was cheating, but I also found out that my husband is a pede. That's when he pipes up and says nanny had been stalking him and that she seduced him. But guess what? I believe her. I took her back to her parents' house and told them what happened. And then his parents got him arrested. I filed for divorce, but now I heard he has a new girlfriend. She just turned 18. Imagine you're married to a very handsome man. He's also kind, he's funny, he's very successful, and he gets along with just about everybody. 5 years ago, you met through friends. You dated for 2 years, and after that, he proposed. One day he surprised you with a flight to Jamaica, and at first you thought it was just a romantic getaway, but it was actually your engagement party. After you land, he takes you to a romantic dinner, and that's where he proposes. And suddenly your entire family appears, and you think, could he be any more perfect? He flew your entire family to Jamaica, your best friends, and even your dog. Your family adores him. He insists on having a big lavish wedding. And for 7 months, you have 2 wedding planners. He insists that your entire life must be preparing the wedding, and he even insists that you quit your job, which you do. He gets promoted to a new job in a new city. Now that you're newlyweds, you know you have to go with him. Now you live in a 5-bedroom house, and he surprised you with a new car. But things start to change. He starts controlling you, to the point that he's even picking out your outfits and allowing you to wear makeup. Part 2 is, imagine you just got married to a very handsome man. He's successful and he bought you a new house, new car. Now that you're married, he's changed. Starts to control you, to the point that he's picking out your outfits and telling you that he's gonna let you wear makeup. He's even told you who you can and cannot be friends with. After weeks of this, you can't take this anymore. You ask him why he suddenly changed after getting married. This is when he tells you that now that he's made you quit your job, you are totally dependent on him. And because of this, you need to follow his simple rules. You have to ask him for permission to go out. Checks your phone every single night. He tells you exactly what to wear, and you can't be alone with any men. And this is when he says something you never thought he'd say. He tells you he expects you to be pregnant as soon as possible. Only then will you receive more privileges. For now, your only purpose is to get pregnant. Are you running or are you staying? Part 3 is up. Imagine you're married to a very controlling man. It's as if he flipped a switch. He's basically taken away all of your liberty, told you that if you want more freedom, you must get pregnant as soon as possible, and told you that that is your only purpose. But of course, he also expects you to be the perfect wife, cook and clean, look good only for him, and be completely financially and emotionally dependent on him. The baby making has become tedious. You almost feel forced. You're afraid that telling him you don't want a baby just yet will have consequences. After a month of trying, he's angry. You're still not pregnant. Now he's taken away your car, your credit cards, and even controls how often you speak to your family. You have 2 choices. Are you jumping on the next flight back home? Or will you stay? After all, you still love him. Are you a woman? Or are you only his wife?
Storytime about how my boyfriend got myself and another girl pregnant at the same time. So a little background information. I was 18 and a senior in high school whenever this all happened. And I've been dating my boyfriend, who we're going to call Ivan, since I was 15 years old. And he was truly my first love, and everything was going great until our senior year. Ivan started acting super weird out of nowhere, ignoring my calls and going out way more than usual without me. And then one day, another girl answers his phone whenever I called. And when I confronted him about it, he said that it was his sister playing a prank. And I ignored these red flags, of course, because what are we? Colorblind. Anyway, soon after this, I realized that I'm pregnant, and Ivan was thrilled about this. Well, fast forward a little bit after I find out that I'm pregnant, he casually admits to me one day that he did it on purpose because he was afraid that I would leave him whenever I went off to college. Fast forward, things got worse when I found out that he had got another girl pregnant, but she was 7 months along. Not only that, but his mom thought that we had been broken up. So I end things with him. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how my boyfriend got myself and another girl pregnant at the same time. So like I said, he admitted that he got me pregnant so that way I wouldn't leave him whenever I went to college. So I broke up with him, and while I'm dealing with my pregnancy, I lost one of my closest friends, and then I lost my baby 6.5 months in. But despite all of this, I finished high school and got into college and started volunteering at a hospital. And y'all will not believe this shit. The one day, I run into Ivan at the hospital that his girlfriend is giving labor in. And he has the nerve to sit there and apologize and say that he wanted our family back. And that's whenever I told him, sir, our baby's gone. Like, I lost that shit. So then later he called me and he asked if I was pregnant again. But I just blocked him and his whole family after they kept trying to guilt trip me into getting back with him, even though he literally had a baby with another girl. Fast forward, over a decade later, I've graduated, I have a great job, a house, and I'm engaged to the love of my life, and we're planning to start a family, and I've healed through a lot of therapy. Ivan's married and has kids, but he's still living this drama-filled life.
Story time about how my coworker essayed me and then got me fired. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. 2 years ago, I decided to move to LA to become an actress. Like everyone else who's trying to become an actor, moving to LA, you're probably broke. I told my parents I wanted to move to LA. They said no. I turned 21 and I decided I'm just gonna do it. I got hired at a restaurant as a waitress and I worked for 9 months. And I was able to save around $20,000. I thought this was pretty good. My parents drove me and my things all the way to LA, were my co-signers for my apartment. I got a pretty decent apartment. As soon as I arrived, I started auditioning and I booked a small job. I paid around $500. While I was on set, there was another actress, and she was really nice. We got along, and she was surprised that I had only been in LA a couple of days. She told me that she could get me a job, and I said yes. When I tell you that everyone at this restaurant looked like a model, I am not lying. I was surprised I even got the job because I was not as good looking as everybody else. I was hired as a server, and a couple of months into my job, this new guy was hired. Let's call him Jake. Jake was incredibly hot, and he knew it. He thought he deserved every single girl, but I was pretty much an asshole to him because I didn't like that. Jake stole my number and started texting me. You have to go to part 2. Story time about how my coworker essayed me and got me fired. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. After I got hired at this new restaurant as a server, this new guy was hired 2 months later. He was the biggest asshole. He was good looking and he knew it. He started trying to talk to me, but I was a complete asshole to him. And that's when I realized he stole my number from the schedule because I started receiving text messages from him. First, he was just asking, what day are you working? Can you cover my shifts? And at first I would just give him really short answers and he clearly didn't like that. He started to call me. When I didn't answer, he kept texting. When I didn't text, he kept calling. Every time I'd see him at work, I would just avoid him. One day we were both scheduled for the closing shift. I was polishing silverware at one of the tables when he came and sat down next to me and started asking me 20 questions. Where I was from, I have a boyfriend, did I like guys, did I do things to myself if I was alone, if you know what I mean. That's when he grabbed my boobula without saying anything, just out of nowhere. He wouldn't let it go. I screamed so loud my manager came running. It gets worse. Part 3 is a story time about my coworker essayed me and got me fired. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. As this guy was grabbing my boobula, I yelled so loud my manager came running. My manager caught him grabbing my boobula. Guess what? My manager just told him to stop. And he told us that anything between us has to happen outside of work. With tears in my eyes, I said to him, I did not consent. I told him to stop. That's when my manager said, I've seen you flirting with him. You probably provoked him. I just went home and cried. Jake apologized over text. And then he asked me out on a date. He clearly did not understand that I didn't like him and that I didn't want him to touch me. I managed to survive 3 more months. Just avoided Jake and my manager. I was making at least $1,200 a week. It was too good to quit. After 3 months, my manager started giving me terrible hours. And Jake would try to corner me, try to grab my hand. And then one day I wake up to an email telling me not to come into work. My manager told me that I was fired. Weeks later, I found out Jake and my manager were besties. I found a better job. My parents think I should sue, but I think it's not worth the trouble. What do you guys think? What should I do? Story time about my gay best friend confessed that he is not gay and he's actually straight and he's actually in love with me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I sent me on Instagram. Let's call him Ted. Ted and I met in 10th grade. Now let me be clear. I did not think he was gay. In fact, I knew that he was hooking up with other girls. He was attractive and one of the most popular guys in school. I knew for a fact that he was hooking up with the most popular girls in school. He befriended me. He told me that he was secretly gay, but I was the only person he had ever told. We became besties. Started telling me about the guys he liked, about guys he had hooked up with, and I started telling him all my dirty secrets too. We would sleep over at his house almost every other weekend. He would sleep over at my house almost every other weekend. But we were together every single day and every single weekend. His parents loved me. Dad would always say things like, I can't wait for you and Ted to get married. And I would just stay quiet thinking, oh my gosh, if you only knew you have a gay son. For 3 years, his parents thought we were in a relationship, all because he wanted to cover the fact that he was gay. After graduating high school, we went to the same university and we decided to be roommates. In front of people, he acted like my boyfriend. He would kiss my neck and hold my hand. It gets so much worse. Go to part 2. Story time about how my gay best friend confessed that he is not gay and that he is actually in love with me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It's on Instagram. After deciding to become roommates and moving in together, he was still acting like he was my boyfriend in front of other people. Because according to him, our friends and his family would never accept that he was gay. Anytime we were in front of people, he would grab my hand, kiss my neck, and just act like a couple. Now, living together was fun. We would go to parties together and he would always take care of me. I was still changing in front of him, was still telling him all of my secrets. This man would wash my underwear. That's how comfortable I was with him. One night I told him I had a huge crush on this guy. That's when he told me that we should practice kissing so that I could kiss with my crush. I was a little bit tipsy, so I accepted. 10 minutes into my kissing lesson, he starts putting his hand on places he shouldn't. That's when he confessed that he's never been gay. He only told me that lie in high school to get close to me, that the lie grew so much that he couldn't retract. Then he tried to kiss me again, pushed him away and told him that what he had done was abuse. I felt completely violated. Kicked him out of the apartment, of course, and I told his parents and mine. My dad went to his house and punched him in the face. I'm even getting therapy for it now. Should I report him or something?
Story time. My boyfriend cheated on me with the girl best friend. So a little background information. I was 17 and a junior in high school, and my boyfriend and I had been dating for a year. But just a little backstory about when we got together. So there were definitely some red flags that I missed, okay? One of them being that he had a girl best friend. And I don't care what y'all have to say if that makes me insecure or what, but coming from someone who has been the girl best friend, I knew this was not good at all. Especially whenever we first started dating and she was still being super friendly with him, meaning she would hold his hand, she would hang on him 24/7. And when I told him I was super uncomfortable with that and I felt like there needed to be some boundaries, he was like, yeah, I told you what it was whenever we got together. So if you don't like that, then just break up with me. Looking back on it now, that was also a red flag because I feel like he was telling me to break up with him so that way he didn't have to break up with me, like for part 2. Part 2 about how my boyfriend cheated on me with the girl best friend. So like I said, she would still hang all over him and he pretty much told me, if you don't like that, then you can leave. Obviously, I did not want to leave because I liked him and he was my boyfriend. So I just kept putting up with it, and eventually, we got 6 months into our relationship. So at that point, I'm thinking maybe I have a little bit more authority, to be like, hey, I don't like the way that she acts around you. You guys can't hang out like that anymore. And they would hang out alone together. He would take her to dinner. I literally tried telling him that the stuff that they do together is relationship stuff. And he was like, that's not true at all because we did all of this stuff before you and I even got together. So anyways, like I said, 6 months in, I'm like, hey, I don't like the way that you guys are hanging around each other. Once again, he gives me the same excuse. So he pretty much said that he didn't care. And the one night him and I were supposed to hang out, but he canceled on me last minute. And her and I didn't get along and she never Snapchatted me before, but then I get a Snapchat of her and him making out at his house.